It started with a phone Lucas wasn't supposed to touch. Don Romano had left it on the study desk, charging, screen face up, a mistake he never made, except this once. Lucas had only gone in looking for a pen. He wasn't trying to look. But the screen lit up with a message, and his eyes caught 3 words before he could stop them. Asterisk shipment cleared. No survivors. Asterisk. He stood there long after the screen went dark again, the pen still in his hand, forgotten. He didn't tell anyone that day. He carried it through dinner, through homework, through the moment his father ruffled his hair on the way past his room and said good night like it was any other Tuesday. Lucas said good night back. He didn't know what else to do with what he'd seen. It took him 4 days to work up the nerve to ask Victor. He found him alone by the garage, cleaning a pair of boots that didn't look like they needed cleaning. What does my dad actually do? Victor didn't look up right away. You already asked him that. He said import and export. That's not a real answer. Victor set the boot down slowly. He'd known this day was coming for a long time. Every kid in this family eventually asked the question, the only variable was when. That's not a conversation for me to have with you. Then who? Your father. Lucas didn't wait for an invitation. That night, after Emma had gone to bed and Sophia was upstairs, he walked into his father's study and shut the door behind him, something he'd never done before. Don Romano looked up from his desk, and something in his son's face told him this wasn't about homework. Sit down, he said, before Lucas even spoke. Lucas Saturday. His hands were shaking slightly, and he pressed them flat against his knees to stop it. I saw a message on your phone. 4 days ago. It said something about a shipment. And no survivors. The room went very quiet. Don Romano didn't reach for excuses. He never had, not with his son, not about the things that mattered. You shouldn't have seen that. But I did. Don Romano leaned back in his chair, studying his son the way he studied men across a negotiating table, except this was harder because there was nothing to negotiate, only something to decide, how much truth a 12-year-old could carry. What do you think I do, Lucas? I don't know anymore. I used to think you were just powerful. Important. People are scared of you, and I used to think that meant you were strong. His voice cracked slightly. Now I don't know if it means something else. Don Romano was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood, walked to the window, looked out at the dark street where Victor's car sat parked, always watching. I'm not going to lie to you, he said. Not tonight. You're old enough that a lie would just be another wall between us, and I've built enough of those already. He turned back. The world I work in is not clean. People get hurt. Sometimes worse than hurt. I've made choices in that world I'm not proud of. Then why do it? Because I inherited a world I didn't choose, the same way you're inheriting a house you didn't choose. And because everything you have, this house, your school, your safety, comes from somewhere. I've spent your whole life trying to keep the ugliest parts of it far enough away that you'd never have to ask me this question. He exhaled. I failed at that tonight. I'm sorry you had to find out this way. Lucas's eyes were wet, but he didn't let the tears fall. Is Mom part of it? No. Your mother married into a world she never signed up to be part of, and she spent every day since fighting to keep you and your sister out of it. That's not weakness, Lucas. That took more courage than anything I've ever done. Does Emma know? No. And she won't, not for a long time. That's not your secret to give her. Lucas nodded slowly, processing something too large for a room this small. Are you scared? Of what happens to you? Don Romano crossed the room and sat on the edge of the desk, closer to his son now. Every day. Not for myself. For you. For your sister. For your mother. That fear is the only thing keeping this family as safe as it is. I don't know how to feel about you right now. You don't have to know tonight. You don't have to know for a long time. I'm not asking you to forgive what I am. I'm asking you not to stop being my son while you figure it out. Lucas sat with that, silent, staring at his own hands. Can I ask you something else? Anything. If I never wanted this, the business, any of it, would you make me? Don Romano didn't hesitate. No. I would carry this alone before I let it touch you. That was always the plan, Lucas. You were never meant to inherit this. You were meant to inherit something better than what I had. For the first time since he'd sat down, Lucas looked directly at his father instead of at the floor. Then what happens now? Now you go to bed. Tomorrow you wake up, and you're still my son, and I'm still your father, and nothing about that changes because of what you learned tonight. He reached out, rested a hand briefly on Lucas's shoulder. But if you ever have a question again, you come to me. Not to a phone screen. Not to Victor. To me. Lucas stood, walked to the door, then stopped with his hand on the handle. I'm not going to tell Emma. I know. But I'm scared for her. For all of us. Don Romano's voice followed him, quiet and certain in the dark study. That's why I'll never stop making sure you don't have to be. Lucas left the room that night different than he'd walked in, not broken, not innocent anymore either, but something new settling into place between the two of them, a truth finally out in the open where it could no longer hide behind locked doors and cleared phone screens. Downstairs, Maria stood at the bottom of the staircase, having heard just enough through the old walls of the house to know that tonight, something in this family had shifted for good. She said nothing. She only turned off the hallway light and went to check on Emma, sleeping soundly, still unaware of how much closer the truth had just come to her door.